Continuing where I left off, I saw him dead, with these here dead lights, said Morgan. Billy took me in. There he laid, with penny pieces on his eyes. Dead eye. Sure enough he's dead and gone below, said the fellow with the bandage. But if ever spirit walked, it would be Flint's, dear heart. But he died bad, did Flint. Aye, that he did, observed another. Now he raged, and now he hollered for the rum, and now he sang. 15 men were his only song, mates, and I tell you true, I never rightly liked to hear it since. It was main hot, and the windy was open, and I hear that old song coming out as clear, and the death haul in the man already. Come, come, said Silver, stall this talk. He's dead, and he don't walk, that I know. Leastways, he won't walk by day, and you may lay to that. Care kill a cat. Fetch ahead for the doubloons. We started, certainly, but in spite of the hot sun and the starring daylight, the pirates no longer ran separate and shouting through the wood, but kept side by side and spoke with bated breath. The terror of the dead buccaneer had fallen on their spirits. Chapter 32. The treasure hunt. The voice among the trees. Partly from the damping influence of this alarm, partly to rest Silver and the sick folk, the whole party sat down as soon as they had gained the brow of the ascent. The plateau being somewhat tilted towards the west, this spot on which we had paused commanded a wide prospect on either hand. Before us, over the tree-tops, we beheld the cape of the woods fringed with surf. Behind, we not only looked down upon the anchorage and Skeleton Island, but saw clear across the spit in the eastern lowlands a great field of open sea upon the east. Sheer above us rose the spy-glass, here dotted with single pines, there with black precipice. There was no sound but that of the distant breakers, mounting from all round, and the chirp of countless insects in the brush. Not a man, not a sail upon the sea. The very largeness of the view increased the sense of solitude. Silver, as he sat, certain bearings with his compass. There are 3 tall trees, said he, about in the right line, from Skeleton Island. Spy-glass shoulder, I take it, means that lower pint there. It's child's play to find the stuff now. I've half a mind to dine first. I don't feel sharp, growled Morgan, thinking o' Flint. I think it were as done me. Ah, well, my son, you praise your stars he's dead, said Silver. He was an ugly devil, cried a third pirate with a shudder. That blue in the face, too. That was how the rum took him, added Mary. Blue. Well, I reckon he was blue. That's a true word. Ever since they had found the skeleton and got upon this train of thought, they had spoken lower and lower, but they had almost got to whispering by now, so that the sound of their talk hardly interrupted the silence of the wood. All of a sudden, out of the middle of the trees in front of us, a thin, high, trembling voice struck up the well-known air in words. 15 men on the dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum. I'd never have seen men more dreadfully affected than the pirates. The color went from their sick faces like enchantment. Some leaped to their feet, some closed hold of others. Morgan grovelled on the ground. It's Flint! By, cried Mary. The song had stopped as suddenly as it began, broken off, you would have said, in the middle of a note, as though someone had laid his hand upon the singer's mouth. Coming through the clear, sunny atmosphere among the green tree-tops, I thought it had sounded airily and sweetly, and the effect on my companions was the stranger. Come, said Silver, struggling with his ashen lips to get the word out. This won't do. Stand by to go about. This is a rum start, and I can't name the voice, but it's someone skylarking. Someone that's flesh and blood. and you may lay to that." His courage had come back as he spoke, and some of the color to his face along with it. Already the others had begun to lend an ear to this encouragement, and were coming a little to themselves, when the same voice broke out again, not this time singing, but in a faint, distant hail that echoed yet fainter among the clefts of the spyglass. Darby McGraw did well, for that is the word that best describes the sound. Darby McGraw, Darby McGraw. Again, and again, and again. And then rising a little higher, and with an oath that I leave out, "Fetch aft the rum, Darby." The buccaneers remained rooted to the ground, their eyes starting from their heads. Long after the voice had died away, they still stared in silence dreadfully before them. "That fixes it," gasped one. "Let's go." They was his last words, moaned Morgan, his last words above board. Dick had his Bible out and was praying volubly. He had been well brought up, had Dick, before he came to sea, and fell among bad companions. Still, Silver was unconquered. I could hear his teeth rattle in his head, but he had not yet surrendered it. "Nobody in this here island ever heard of Darby," he muttered. "Not one but us that's here." And then, making a great effort, "Shipmates," he cried, "I'm here to get that stuff, and I'll not be beat by man or devil. I never was feared of Flint in his life, and by the powers I'll face him dead. There's 700,000 pound, not a quarter of a mile from here. When did ever a gentleman or fortune show his stern to that much dollars for a boozy old seaman with a blue mug, and him dead too?" But there was no sign of reawakening courage in his followers, rather indeed of growing terror at the irreverence of his words. "Belay there, John," said Mary. "Don't you cross the spirit." And the rest were all too terrified to reply. They would have run away severally had they dared, but fear kept them together, and kept them close by John, as if his daring helped them. He, on his part, had pretty well fought his weakness down. "Spirit! Well, maybe," he said, "but there's one thing not clear to me. There was an echo. Now, no man ever seen a spirit with a shadow." "Well then, what's he doing with an echo to him? I should like to know." "That ain't in nature, surely." This argument seemed weak enough to me, but you can never tell what will affect the superstitious, and to my wonder, George Merry was greatly relieved. "Well, that's so," he said. "You've a head upon your shoulders, John, and no mistake, 'bout shipmates. Here, crew is on a wrong tack, I do believe, and come to think on it, it was like Flint's voice, I grant you, but not just so clear away like it, after all. It was like somebody else's voice now. It was like her." "By the powers, Ben Gunn," roared Silver. "Aye, and so it were," cried Morgan, springing on his knees. "Ben Gunn it were." "It don't make much odds to do it now," asked Dick. "Ben Gunn's not here in the body any more, Flint." But the older hands greeted this remark with scorn. "Why, nobody minds Ben Gunn," cried Mary. "Dead or alive, nobody minds him." It was extraordinary how their spirits had returned, and how the natural color had revived in their faces. Soon they were chatting together, with intervals of listening, and not long after, hearing no further sound, they shouldered the tools and set forth again, Mary walking first with Silver's compass to keep them on the right line with Skeleton Island. He had said the truth. Dead or alive, nobody minded Ben Gunn. Dick alone still held his Bible and looked around him as he went with fearful glances, but he found no sympathy, and Silver even joked him on his precautions. "I told you," said he, "I told you, you had spiled your Bible. If it ain't no good to swear by, what do you suppose a spirit would give for it? Not that!" And he snapped his big fingers, halting a moment on his crutch. But Dick was not to be comforted, indeed. It was soon plain to me that lad was falling sick, hastened by the heat, exhaustion, and the shock of his alarm. The fever, predicted by Dr. Livesey, was evidently growing swiftly higher. It was fine, open walking here, upon the summit. Our way lay a little downhill, For, as I have said, the plateau tilted towards the west. The pines, great and small, grew wide apart, and even between the clumps of nutmeg and azalea, wide open spaces baked in the hot sunshine. Striking, as we did, pretty near northwest across the island, we drew, on the one hand, ever nearer under the shoulders of the spyglass, and on the other looked even wider over that western bay where I had once tossed and trembled in the oracle. I'm going to leave it off there. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to subscribe, comment below, give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.